G'day, you nines. Welcome back to some maths. We're going on with what we've already looked at with indices. So this week we're going to look at indices, and then we're going to move on to another topic. And we're looking at how we use indices with brackets. So we've done a little bit of work on adding indices. So 2 to the third plus 2 to the fifth. We add together the 3 and the 5 is 2 to the 8th. That was adding. Dividing, let's say we had a to the 7th divided by a to the 2. That was just a to the 7 minus 2, a to the 5th. So let's have a look now at the next step, which is looking at brackets. And here's our basic rule. The textbook sets this out as a little bit of a proof. And they say, okay, if you've got 3 squared and you have it 4 times, well, that's 3 squared times 3 squared times 3 squared times 3 squared. And 3 squared is just 3 times 3. So that's 3 times 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 3, which is 3 to the 8th. And nicely, 3 to the 3 squared, 3 to the 2 raised to the 4 equals 3 to the 8th, which means that 3, if we multiply 2 by 4, is what we get. They do the same little bit of a proof here around the letter A. A to the a cubed, a to the 3 is just a times a times a to the 3 is a times 3. So a to the 3 twice squared is a to the 6, or a to the 3 times 2. So that's the little rule that we get here. Right? This is the rule that's really important. When a power is raised to another power, we multiply the indices. A to the m raised to the n is just a multiplied by m times n. So let me just try and give you an example, even before we look at anything else. Let's say we've got 3, I haven't turned the pen on, sorry. Let's say we've got 3 squared raised to the 5th. Can you have a look down here and say, okay, a is the 3, m is the 2, n is the 5, a to the m times n. So it's going to be, when we look at it, it's going to be 3 to the 2 times 5, which is 3 to the 10. So that's the pattern that we're working with today in some different problems. So let's have a look at some of these exercises. The first one is exactly like that, right? 10 squared to the 3 raised to 3, and they've just asked us to get rid of the brackets effectively. So we've used exactly this rule to say it's 10, 2 times 3 is 10 to the 6. Let's do the second one just because that looks a little bit different. We'll just go back and get the pen working again. So in this case, x cubed raised to the 4. What's that going to equal? Well, our rule is the base stays the same as x, and it's going to be 3 times 4. Okay, it's x to the 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. So the answer should be, sorry, I've misread the question, have I? The x to the 12. And let's just double check when we go down here that it is in fact x to the 12 is the answer. Right, so we just multiply those two to get rid of the brackets. Let's have a look at the next set of examples here. Now, when we've got a number in front, we have to raise both of these to the power of 3. Right, so we want to get rid of the brackets in this again. So it's going to be 2 cubed times a cubed. Right, so here's our general rule. When you have two numbers together in the brackets raised to the power of m, they're both going to be raised to the power of m. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at the second one. So we've talked through that first one. Let's have a look at this second one here and see if we can work through that one. So we've got that 3x So 3xy is cubed. And we're asked to get rid of the brackets. So the first thing we've got is 3 cubed. They're all going to be cubed times x cubed, y cubed. Now, we can use our calculator and find the value of 3 cubed. It's going to be 3x to the y3. We might know that that equals 27. So it's going to equal 27x cubed y cubed. Okay. I want to have a look at the last one here, number D, because it has a special rule. Basically, anything raised to the power of 0 equals 1. That's just a rule that we've got to remember. So if we've got 3x all raised to the 0, it's going to equal 3 to the 0, x to the 0. Not a great 3. And we know that anything raised to 0 equals 1, so it's going to be 1 times 1, which equals 1. So they're the questions, they're the examples, and they're the things I want you to go through. You've got these examples to look back to. I don't think it's awfully challenging work. What I want you to get through in the textbook is in exercise, we're in exercise 1.2, and the questions are going to be 1.2 questions 1 to 5. And it's just that same thing. How do we get rid of the brackets? And it's looking at the rules that we've looked at so far.